Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We are studying the fundamental topics in Vedanta. Right now we are covering the various sadhanas. Sadhanas are various spiritual practices which help us to reach our goal, the sadhyam. And the sadhana for today is Jnana Yoga. What is Jnana Yoga? Exactly what we are doing now. Whenever we are involved in a traditional process of learning about God, who is God? What is my true nature? Why is there so much suffering in the world? Is there a way to get out of suffering? What is this being a Jivan Mukta? So whenever we inquire and work on all these topics, this is what is called Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga involves scriptural wisdom from a qualified teacher. And whenever there are doubts, to be able to clarify all these doubts. And finally, to be able to integrate these spiritual wisdom in our daily life. A little more elaboration of what is Jnana Yoga. Few terms like what is Brahman. Brahman is a Vedantic term for the formless form of God. What is Atma, which is my true nature? How do I make a distinction between my real self, which is the Atma, and my not so real self, the Anatma, and the world around me, that is Atma, Anatma. So Jnana Yoga is a sadhana which helps me to gain self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is also called Atma Jnanam. Sometimes for a person who is not in this path, whenever we say any inquiry into who I am, it looks like so ridiculous. I know who I am because we know our biodata, we know our date of birth, we know so much information about ourselves. So we are not talking about the transactional I, which in Jnana Yoga context is considered as the lower I. While there is the lower I, which is this body-mind complex, according to Jnana Yoga, there is a higher I or Atma. Now, trying to understand the nature of this higher I is also called Atma Bodha, or this is the knowledge that we are working in. So what is the purpose of Jnana Yoga? The purpose is to attain to moksha. Again, we need to be very clear. What is this moksha? Is moksha possible for all of us? Moksha means freedom from bondage or freedom from dependence. Now, how do I acquire dependence? Now, all of us have been working on various purusharthas like dharma, artha, kama. So whenever we do any activity and we accomplish something, our very accomplishments can produce a certain bondage. According to our scriptures, the real goal is Parama Purushartha or Moksha. Dharma, Artha, and Kama are considered as secondary goals. So, in that context, what do you mean by what is the goal of Jnana Yoga? The goal of Jnana Yoga is to be a Jivan Muktha. Jivan Muktha means while in this body, while transacting through this body. Whenever I transact through this body, the limitations of this body will seem to be my limitations. And the limitations of my mind will seem to be my limitations. Therefore, all of us, when we function through the body, will experience limitations. But once we have Jnana Yoga, our understanding becomes clear that the limitations are the limitations of the body, the limitations of the mind. I am really limitless. There is a seeming limitation because of the body that I am so closely associated with. So for such a person, the mental state of such a person is unaffected by the presence or absence of people, objects, or situations. That is the state of being a Jivan Mukta or being free. Now, what are the indicators of a Jivan Mukta? Now, this is very nicely explained in the Serenity Prayer. The Serenity Prayer says, Such a person, a Mukta Purusha, has the ability to accept a situation that cannot be changed. Now, we normally hear of this phrase, what cannot be cured must be endured. Swami Anubhavananda has got a nice improvement on it. He says, what cannot be cured must be enjoyed. Whatever we have to do it joyfully. So this is the nature of a Jivan Mukta, because you will experience certain situations in our daily life which cannot be changed, and I have to learn to live with it. Can I learn to work with it cheerfully? And this is a joyful acceptance of things that cannot be changed. On the other hand, there are many situations which which we cannot tolerate, and which is within our purview to change. And it requires a lot of courage. It may mean also hurting people with whom we are working with, but it takes a certain courage to do that. So a Jivan Mukta has the courage to change the things that can be changed, and most importantly, the wisdom or the discretion to know what is that which can be changed and what cannot be changed. The next question is, okay, now I know what is Jnana Yoga, what is the goal of Jnana Yoga. How do I get Jnana Yoga? Now the answer is, how do I get any knowledge? To get any knowledge, I need to use an instrument of knowledge. Now, these are new terms for us to understand. What do you mean by instrument of knowledge? For example, I'm seeing a computer screen in front of me. Now, how do I read what is there? Because of my eyes. So I'm using an instrument. I'm using my eyes, and my eyes are using my mind. So my mind and my eyes are all called instruments of knowledge. So to get any knowledge, we use our sense organs, we use our mind. And in Sanskrit, the instrument of knowledge is called a pramana. This term we should remember. A pramana is an instrument of knowledge. So we have got 5 sense organs, and through these 5 sense organs, I get all the knowledge that I need to be able to interact in the world. But there is a problem. These 5 sense organs and the mind also is very useful to study the world around me. But there is a problem sometimes if I have to study myself. For example, my eyes cannot see myself. And if my eyes cannot see myself, I have to use another instrument. For example, I make use of a mirror. And through the mirror, I'm able to see my own eyes. So too, when it comes to knowledge of my real self, which is other than the body, I have to use a mirror-like instrument of knowledge. And that mirror-like instrument of knowledge is what we are currently studying. The Vedas, also called the Shabda Pramana. Our scriptures are like mirrors. And our teachers help us to hold the mirror in such a way that we are able to use this instrument of knowledge to be able to realize I'm not this limited body-mind complex, but I am something limitless. So for that, this is the 6th instrument of knowledge called the Shastra Pramanam or the Shabda Pramanam. Now there is another term called Apaurusheya. Purusha means human being. Purusha, all of us have got the 5 sense organs and the mind. But if you're using the 6th sense organ, that is what is called the scriptures. So Jnana Yoga involves a technique by using the scriptures, and it cannot be done independently. I will tell you why. What is the problem if we study it independently? We necessarily have to use the help of a guru, because moksha is not an ordinary accomplishment. It cannot be accomplished through time. It cannot be accomplished through effort. It is not an event. And very strangely, unlike everything else which I have to do, moksha is something that I don't have to do anything about. That is why they say moksha is not a sadhyam. It is a siddha vastu. It is something that is always there, but it is covered, and therefore I need the guru and shastras to discover or to remove the cover, and that is the importance of a guru. And a guru is possible. Now, there are certain methods for that. We have to go through reverence. That is why there is a nice mantra. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmana nirvedyam ayat nastik akrit kritena tat vignartam sa gurumeva abhigachet samit panihi shrotriya brahmanishta. Very reverentially, I carry a Samit Pani. Samit Pani means when I go to a guru, I have to carry something with me. And that's something that I offer to a guru. My guru is Shri. Shri means my guru is rich. He has Lakshmi with him. Now, he does not need anything, but I still have to take something. And what do I have to take? I have to take something which I have, which my guru does not have. Traditionally, a guru is an enlightened person, and an enlightened person is egoless. And I have to get over my ego, and the Samit Pani represents the ego, which I drop at the guru's place and very reverentially become available. Now, there are various Upanishads which help us to teach, and there is one Upanishad which specifically tells us about the importance of a guru, where in the Kenopanishad, the student goes to the teacher and the teacher says, now I have a problem in teaching you because I do not know Brahman as an object. And because, see, I can teach you, for example, as doctors, we teach people about the brain, about the heart. Now you can teach about anything that is an object, but how to teach about the very subject, yourself, not your body, mind, but the real self, the one who is seeing through your eyes. Now, this methodology of teaching is a very peculiar methodology. So the teacher in this Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad, says, I can't teach you the usual way, but I can teach you in a very peculiar way. And what is this peculiar way? Because normally we tend to objectify. Normally, whenever I study about Brahman or I study about Atma and I study about the glories of Atma, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Atma, I begin to think that Atma is something somewhere that I need to be able to realize through meditation or through some extraordinary experience. Now, this is what is called information experience dichotomy. Through the Guru, I have learned about Atma, but I have not experienced Atma. So can I do some special form of meditation to get to know about the Atma? It is like normally when we study anything. For example, I'm traveling to USA and Canada, and one of the things in my itinerary is to visit the Niagara Falls. So before going to Niagara Falls, I check a book, or today we go onto um, uh, the net, and we will see on YouTube, you will see various images and drone pictures of how the Niagara looks from the Canadian side, the US side, how it looks from the bottom of the falls, and so on. Now, whenever I use various instruments of knowledge, I get some information. And one day, when I actually am in front of the Niagara Falls, I have the experience, and thereby this information dichotomy is clarified. And this is how we get normal forms of knowledge. And that is how we also think that self-knowledge or Atma Bodha is like that. I have to study about Atma. So go to the Guru and learn all about the Atma, and then ask him what are the special practices or various sadhanas that I need to do to experience the Atma. Now, Atma is not an object to be experienced. I can experience any object, but when it is myself, there is no way I can have an experience of myself, because the Atma is none other than me. And therefore, you have this problem of what is called information experience dichotomy. And because of this problem, the teachers have to use certain peculiar methods so that we don't begin to think that Atma is some object apart from me. So how do we do that? Jnana Yoga is certainly not an easy science compared to all. The question is asked, Is Jnana Yoga easy or Jnana Yoga is difficult? It depends upon, do I have Jnana Yogyata? Do I have the eligibility for Jnanam or not? Now, if I have the eligibility for Jnanam, Jnana Yoga becomes susukam, Sri Krishna will say in the Bhagavad Gita, extremely easy. It becomes very easy. How do I get the eligibility? Now, in the previous classes, we learned about Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. Those who have done Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga for a period of time get a certain amount of Jnana Yogyata. Then I come to Jnana Yoga under the Guru. The Guru will give me that knowledge. And subsequently, I do another practice which is called meditate on this knowledge or nididhyasanam. Then the Jnanam becomes a Jnana Nishta. So therefore, Jnana Yoga involves 3 steps called Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. What are these 3 steps? Shravanam means very reverentially, through Shraddha, listening to a guru. It is systematic and consistent listening to Vedantic scriptures for a length of time under the guidance of a competent acharya. So this is what is Shravanam. Mananam means when the teacher gives you all this information, there will be certain doubts. Now, I need to be able to clarify with my teacher, I fully understand what you say, but there is a certain doubt in my heart. And the teacher clarifies these doubts. Only when all the doubts are clarified, if there is some doubt, there is a glass of water in front of me. I'm about to drink, but somebody puts an idea, I have a doubt that it may not be drinking water. Now, if there is a doubt, am I going to consume? Am I going to consume any knowledge if there is any doubts? Therefore, Mananam is an important process where I clarify all the doubts and I'm convinced about this knowledge. Through Shravanam and Mananam, I get Jnanam about my true nature. Then it takes months, it takes years, it takes decades when I need to be able to internalize this teaching. It is a whole process of being able to transform the intellectual knowledge into emotional strength. And that is what is called Nididhyasana. Now, as I told you, when you go to Jnana Yoga, we are going as an ignorant person. And the teacher is a knowledgeable person. The teacher is a jnani. The teacher knows his true nature, that he is not an ordinary human being. The teacher knows that he is a spiritual being temporarily playing the role of a human being. He also knows our true nature, but then he has a difficulty. If he tells you the truth, we are going to reject. This is the problem. The teacher knows that all of us are seekers of truth, but there is one problem. Even though we want the truth, we are not ready to accept the truth as it is. The moment truth is presented as it is, the first reaction is one of rejection. What is our teaching? I'm not sure if I can tell you right now, but I will still tell you because the teacher will tell you that which you cannot experience, that Brahman is the only reality. That which world that you see, including your body and mind, is not so real. And the truth is, you are that. Now, it becomes very difficult to accept. So the teacher has to do a certain technique, has to do a certain prakriya. And what are these? There are various kinds of prakriyas. I will give you one example of prakriya and how a teacher is able to convince a student. There were a group of 10 students who took permission from their guru to go across the river because there was something interesting happening on the other side of the river. The guru entrusts one of them as to the leader to ensure that they go safely and come back. The problem was when they were coming back, the river was at spate and it was difficult for them to come. While going, they could wade across. While coming, they had to swim across. And once they came back, they were very anxious to see that all of them had come. And they began to count each other. And in their anxiety, they were able to count everybody else except themselves. and they came to a quick conclusion that the 10th man is missing. Every effort at counting, each one consistently counted everybody else except themselves. And then they began to lament and wail that Dashamaha Nasti, the 10th man is not there. When they reported to the Guru looked around and found that all 10 of them were there. And he reassured them, Dashamaha Asti, the 10th man is there. Then who is the 10th man comes the next question. So the teacher asks them, the leader of them, to count each one of them. And he counts 9 of them. Then he points to the person who was counting and he says, Tatutvam asi, that one that you are looking for is yourself. Now, these are called prakriyas. These are various techniques. The teacher does there are various types of prakriyas, Atma, Anatma, Viveka, Drik, Drishya, Viveka, Avastatraya, Viveka, and so on. So that is the whole excitement. The excitement is that one day all of us in this life should become a Jivan Muktha. Through Shravanam, through Mananam and Nidityasanam, we become a Jivan Muktha. A Jivan Muktha, as I already said, is a state of being enlightened even though embodied, a state of realization that we are not ordinary human beings having an occasional spiritual experience. We are divine beings. I am Atma Brahma. This is the claim of the Mahavakya. I am Brahman. I am that. I am the greatest I could possibly be. I am limitless. I am Sat Chit Ananda, functioning through a limited body-mind complex for the time being, as long as my prarabdha goes on. This is the objective and this is the goal of Jnana Yoga.